Hey everybody, this is the Zeal Brothers here once again with another video. This one illuminating the truth for the young and the old and the youth. And want to make this video about Kyle Rittenhouse and just how the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse is a comedy of errors. And let's just start with today. For those of you who don't know, in the trial today, the prosecutor, Thomas Binger, made a fool of himself. And he made an absolute fool of himself because he went against basically the judge told him what areas he couldn't go into. And he decided to go into those areas anyway. And the judge lit him up. And when you look at this whole case, some people are going as far as to say that Thomas Binger tried to throw the case. And I will explain why that's not the case. But people are wondering how he could do such a bad job. But this is because this is a comedy of errors. And let's just start today with the thought that he made a fool of himself. The prosecutor made a fool of himself. And the reason he made a fool of himself is because he has an impossible case. He has an impossible case. Now, some people are saying he's mishandling this case. Saying that Thomas Binger is mishandling this case is like trying to criticize my forehand if I played Rafael Nadal. I would never beat him no matter how good my forehand was. Saying that Thomas Binger is mishandling this case or making mistakes is like me trying to correct my jab if I went against Mike Tyson in his prime. I'm not ever going to knock him out. The point is that he has an impossible case. That's why he's doing the buffoonery he's doing. Again, this is a comedy of errors. We look at today and we just see today as an isolated event. It's not an isolated event. It is the result of a bad case given to a prosecutor who knew he couldn't win. And so now he's aiming for a mistrial. But why is he aiming for a mistrial? He's aiming for a mistrial because he was given a case by the district attorney who didn't want it himself. Now, everybody should ask themselves, why did the district attorney himself not take this case? It's a high-profile case. National attention is being shown on Kenosha County. The DA, Michael Gravely, could have certainly taken this case himself, but he didn't. He gave it to one of his assistants. Why? Because he knew it was an impossible case. Because when you look at the facts of this case and you take out all the extraneous and you look at simply the fact that a man had his life threatened and he had to shoot somebody to defend himself. And if you actually are fair-minded and you look at this trial, you will say to yourself, dang it, this Kyle Rittenhouse, maybe I didn't like him beforehand, but he comes across as the victim in this case. He comes across as somebody that a prosecutor is trying to chase down. He comes across very personable, and he didn't before this trial. There was no way anybody would have liked him before this trial. But now, take the politics out of it. He seems personable, and it's the prosecutor who looks like an idiot. And the reason that the prosecutor looks like an idiot is because he is trying to prove something that can't be proven. You cannot prove that Kyle Rittenhouse was not defending himself because it is factual that he was defending himself. But why did they bring the case? They brought the case because of political pressure. The DA knew he had to bring this case. Why? Because people wanted him to bring this case. This is the same DA who did not charge the police officer who was involved in the shooting of Jacob Blake, which led to this incident. But I'm going to get a little ahead of myself. But the point is that political pressure was put on this DA to carry out this prosecution that should not have been carried out. But why was Kyle Rittenhouse even there? Kyle Rittenhouse was there because there were riots going on. He shouldn't have been there. Too young. He had no business being there. Well, why was he there? Because of riots. Why were riots going on in Kenosha, a county that most people in the United States did not even know existed 2 years ago? There were riots going on because people came in from outside their community to riot there. They did that. Why are they rioting? Well, We could look at the cause, but let's just go a little bit closer to the event and say this. The police had lost control of the situation. The police had no control of the situation, and so therefore more people were encouraged to riot. Why did the police not have control of the situation? Because the National Guard didn't help them. Why didn't the National Guard help them? Because despite what news reports might tell you, those of us who were near the situation on the ground know that the National Guard was not allowed to engage with these protesters until much later. When they were first sent, they were on the outskirts, and they were only doing things like giving water to people. They did nothing to stop people who ran into there and were setting buildings on fire. They did nothing to stop people who were harassing the residents. They did nothing to stop people who were beating up people on the streets. Why did the National Guard not help the Kenosha police who were overwhelmed? Because the governor of the state did not instruct them to. He failed his duty. Now, why was the National Guard even there? Because many people put pressure on Kenosha County and had already pronounced judgment on a case that they knew nothing about. From the Milwaukee Bucks to the CEO of Kohl's, all kind of people across the nation declared a verdict in a case that they had no facts about. Pressure was put on Kenosha to not enforce the law because they were presumed to be guilty, so they had to accept the rioters. That was the presumption. Why did they feel guilty? Because people saw a video that did not show the whole encounter. What did they encounter? What was the encounter? The encounter was, and the facts show this, that Jacob Blake was accused of sexual assault and that he was trying to get into a vehicle with kids he did not have custody of. In other words, he was attempting to kidnap, and he got shot. Now, the tape shows that he got shot in the back. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, what response should a police officer have to somebody who is armed with a weapon, who is trying to take kids that don't belong to him and drive off with them? Rewind a little bit further back. They had already tried to tase him. Rewind a little bit further back. He was involved in an altercation where some black women called the police on this black man. Rewind a little bit back. The police were afraid to physically accost this man. In my view, they were timid. And the reason they were timid is because the atmosphere that we have created around policing, where we have made it in such a way that people are afraid to physically accost a criminal. But I will tell you a hidden truth. If police tackle you and get control of you that way, they are far less likely to taser or shoot you. It's far better to be thrown against the side of a car than to be shot. But it can look very bad on camera. And all police are aware that cameras are pointing on them at every moment that they go to work. All of this is a comedy of errors, a series of events that could have been prevented every step along the way. So when people look at the prosecutor making a fool of himself, they need to ask themselves what caused this issue to begin with. And for a lot of us, the issue started with us. It started with us putting so much pressure on policing that it became something where they became hesitant to show force, to the point where they allowed a situation to get out of control, to a point where they had a man who was raging, who couldn't be tasered, who was going after some kids in a vehicle and about to kidnap them, and they had no choice but to shoot. To a community that reacts simply based on that shooting, not knowing any other facts, or pronouncing the police guilty. Police who were later charged to be innocent by the very DA who created a case against Kyle Rittenhouse that he knows won't stand in court. So look at the facts. Be fair-minded. This is not a political thing. I know I criticize the governor. He's a Democrat. I don't give a crap what party he is, and neither should you. You got to separate your partisan ideas and simply look at the facts and be a fair-minded individual. Some of us need to grow up and be a better person. And so I hope that you guys will look at this case with the facts in mind and not let your biases color what you see, so that you only see what you hope to see instead of the facts on the ground.